Peace and blessings, my brothers. Peace and blessings, my brothers. This is BMI 3000 Reloaded in the house once again on a Sunday evening. Today is March 30th, 2025, and I am broadcasting live. I am broadcasting live to you from the state of North Carolina. From what I understand, it is officially spring. The seasons have changed, and we are in a new chapter in this year. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Black Toxic Masculists, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Good to see you. Salute to you, my brother. Salute to you. Salute to you. What's going on? What's going on, brothers? Dr. J. Dr. T.S.Son Johnson is in the house. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. I'm so glad you're here, man. I know that you addressed this film the other night on a 4-hour live stream. I'm not going to attempt to compete with you, my brother. What's happening? What's happening, brothers? What's happening? What's happening? Electrician 480 is in the house. What's going on? What's going on? We got to talk tonight, brothers. We're going to talk this evening, guys. This is not going to be a review. This is not going to be a review. I'm just going to talk tonight. If you want to review a full review, I suggest that you guys go over to Dr. J's channel and check out his review with Layman's Journal, Artist and MC, among others. Y'all do that. Y'all do that. What's going on? Thank you, man. We're glad you're in the house. Christopher Clipper, man, what's happening, man? Good to see you, man. Thank you, man. Y'all get them likes up. Get them likes up. Get them likes up, brothers. Get them likes up. Get them likes up, man. We got to talk tonight. We got to talk tonight. You know how I do it, man. I'm the Mad Professor in the house. BMI 3000 Reloaded. We are doing it as we end the month of March and head into the month of April. Oh, yes. Man, we thank you guys for all your support. Louis Harper, man, peace to you. Peace to you. Good to see 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 you, man. Thank you, man, for all your support. Y'all get them likes up, man. We got Happy Life in the house. What's going on? Good morning to you, my brother. Good morning to you. Good morning to you, my brother. My brother, Happy Life is in Bangkok. Oh, we love it, man. We got the passport men, the Blue Book gentlemen in the house, man. You know what time it is. We support all the black men who travel. We support all the black men who aspire to travel. That's what we do over here, man. That's right. That's right. That's right, man. Good morning to you, man. I'm going to make my way to Thailand at some point. I'm going to make that trip. Thailand is on my list, brother. I'm going to make that trip. What's going on, Mr. Blue Collar? What's happening? What's happening, man? Good to see you, man. Yeah, man. Hey, I had to come out here, man. I had to come out here, brother. Dr. J. No, man. No. I had to see it 2 times first, actually, brother. No, brother. No. I know you have to do your thing. I respect that and everything. I had only seen it one time when you had done your stream, and I needed to watch it again. I needed to get at least 2 viewings in before commenting on the film. I needed to get 2 viewings in, so um, I respect everything that you did the other night. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Indigo Flow, what's happening, man? Indigo Flow, what's happening, man? Good to see you. Good to see you, man. This is BMI 3000 Reloaded. BMI 3000 Reloaded. This is Sunday Night Live. Y'all get them likes up, man. Y'all get them likes up. Get them likes up. We've got to talk about this film, man. Magazine Dreams. Magazine Dreams. And I'm going to say this to you guys. This is not a review. I'm going to say this to you again because I suspect that a lot of brothers have not seen the film. And so I'm not going to give a play-by-play, chapter by chapter, verse by verse breakdown of the film, but I'm just going to talk about this very broadly, very, very, very broadly, in light of our culture, in light of where we are right now, in light of so many things that we have to contend with in the Western world. So this is not a review. What's going on? What's going on? Glad you're here, man. Our Jizzle, man, what's going on, man? Good to see you, man. Glad that you're here. Glad that you were in the house tonight. Yes, sir. It's Sunday Night Live. I know that you guys are getting ready for a brand new week, So many challenges ahead of us as we enter into the month of April, and we look forward to everything that ensues. And so tonight, you guys, you're at home, you're chilling, you're sitting on your couch, you're in your lazy boy chair. Hell, you might be laying in bed or what have you, man. You might be riding in your car. You might be in your truck. Shout out to all my truckers, man. Shout out to all my truckers, man. You might be doing work right now, traveling, carrying big loads. Man, we see you guys. We see all the brothers out here, man. All the truckers, man. All the brothers. And you might be on your job. You might be on your job right now, man, working in the warehouse. You might be on your job, man, putting in that 3 to 11. You might be putting in that 7 to 7. You pulling in that third shift. You pulling in that extra shift, man, trying to make that money. What's going on, Blood Boiling? Good to see you, Blood Boiling. Good to see you. 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 Y'all see the title. Y'all see the title. Y'all see the title, man. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith wants us to know that YG released a new song, 2004. My. Yes, that's all over the internet. It is all over the internet, and that is a wonderful sign. You got rappers now. Rappers now have boldness. Rappers now have courage. Rappers now are speaking with candor about their experiences with the gynocracy. Yeah, he experienced that situation. 14 years old. Look at that. 14 years old with a 30-year-old woman. And do you know how many brothers have gone through that, man? Through the decades and through the generations, and have not been able to articulate their experiences and how those experiences have affected their lives in so many ways. But because of us, because of our space, because of the work that we are doing, these brothers now have the gumption, they have the courage, they have the wherewithal of talking about their lives with candor. Candor. I was just on Instagram. And I was watching a Instagram commentary from a comedian, a black comedian, You guys know the guy. You guys know who I'm talking about. He's a comedian. He has a Netflix special which I have not seen up to this point, but I'm gonna have to watch his Netflix special. And his first name is Ryan. Ryan. He's a young guy. He's in his 30s, and he talks about the sordid relationship that he has had with his mother. And I saw an Instagram clip where he is on the breakfast show talking to DJ Envy, and he is talking about his experiences um, with his mother, and how he went for a period of 7 years because of his tumultuous and fractured relationship with his mother. He went through a period of 7 years of not talking to his mother. And as I listen and listen and listen, I came to understand that this guy's mother had him when she was a teenager. He is the product of a teenage mother, and he is not her first child. She had him when she was a teenager, and he was not the first child that she had rather during her teenage years, and that affected her relationship with him. And this guy found the courage to talk about that situation. Mr. Blue Collar, man, thank you, man. Thank you, Mr. Blue Collar. Thank you for that generous support. Y'all get the likes up, man. Y'all get the likes up, man. You know what we do here, man. We talk about real stuff. We talk about the black male situation, and we do it from the standpoint of Black Men's Independence, BMI. We do it from the standpoint of Black Men's Empowerment, BME. We do it from the standpoint of Black Men's Agency, BMA. And we do it from the standpoint of Black Men's Happiness, BMH. Those are the acronyms. We're in the house tonight, and we're going to talk about pumping iron. Pumping iron. Y'all get them likes up, man. Get them likes up. Push the algorithm, push the algorithm, push the algorithm, push the algorithm, my brothers. Thank you. Good to see you, man, Mr. Smith. We appreciate you, man. We thank you guys for all your support. We thank you guys for all your support. And I'm going to do my best tonight, brothers. I'm going to do my best. I'm just going to share some thoughts about this film. You guys, if you have not seen this film, I want you to go out and support the film. Go out and support it. It's not a traditional release. It is a Sundance film. It was made for a particular type of audience. It is an independent film. You can say that it is an art film. It's an art house film. But it is a film nonetheless that is filled with questions, filled with issues, filled with challenges that are relevant to everything that we do in our space, where we address the situation, the particular situation of Black men. So if you guys have not seen Magazine Dreams, I need you all to go out and see it. I'm not going to do a complete review. If y'all want a thorough dissection, y'all can go over to Dr. T.S.on Johnson's channel. He did an entire 4-hour live with Artisan MC. He did a 4-hour live with Layman's Journal and other people and what have you. So y'all go ahead and do that, man. Thank you. Mr. Matt 55, man, good to see you, man. Good evening to you, my brother. We are so glad that you were here. We are so glad that you were here. We are so glad that you were here, man. Oh, Dr. J. Oh man, man. Oh man. Yeah. I had to get it in. Yeah, I understand, man. Yeah, it's that kind of feeling. Let me tell you something, man. Where I am in North Carolina, it's only shown in one theater. It is only shown. This film, Magazine Dreams, is only being shown in one theater in the city that I live in, and it is only shown at 2 times. I want y'all to listen to this. This film um, um, was given to a limited release, which means that we don't know how long it's going to remain in the theaters before it goes to Fandango, before it goes to streaming. It might go, it might not go to Max. It may go, it may not go to Prime. It may go, it may not go to Netflix. We don't know. We don't know. It's a film that is showing in a very limited fashion at the theater where I went to watch it. There were only 2 showings. There was a 6:15 showing and a 9:15 showing. 6:15, 9:15. I wanted to go to a matinee. I wanted to go to a matinee. I love going to matinees. I love going to matinees. I love being able to go to a film like, at noon, at 12:30. I love it. I love it on Saturday, especially on the Saturday, man. I love going to a matinee um and watching a good film. And I was hoping that I could do that. With this film, I was unable to do that. I went out and I saw it. The first showing, the first time I watched it was Thursday night. I saw it on Thursday night, and then I saw it again last night. Okay, and I needed to watch the film at least 2 times, before I could come out here and say something sensible to put my thoughts out here. Okay. And I think I might try to catch it again before they pull it from the theaters, man. Good to see you, man, Dr. L. Good to see you, Dr. L, man. Thank you, my brother. Thank you for all the support. Glad that you're here. Glad that you're here. These are just some thoughts that I want to share with you guys. Some thoughts I want to share with you about this film. Lil Bass, assalamu alaikum, my brother. Assalamu alaikum, my brother, man. Appreciate you, man. Salaikum assalam, my brothers. Salaikum assalam, man. Glad that you're here, man. You all get the likes up. Get these likes up. Get the likes up. Get the likes up. Salute Tim Harding. Salute my brother Timothy Harding, man. I'm so glad that you're here, my brother. We appreciate you, man. I appreciate all your support. I appreciate everything that you do on this channel, my brother, man. I appreciate you, man. Good to see you, man. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you, man. I am BMI 3000 Reloaded, and this is Sunday Night Live. And I am going to shortly talk about Jonathan Majors and this film, Magazine Dreams. Y'all see the title, Pumping Iron, Pumping Iron. Salute to you, Shepherd Tracer. Salute to you. Glad that you're here. Glad that you're here. Ghetto User, what's going on? Ghetto User, what's going on, man? Ghetto User is in the house. Ghetto User, man. Good to see you, man. Thank you for that support. Thank you for that support, man. Thank you for the tuition. We always appreciate your monetary support. You guys don't hesitate. If you like this content, if you like this ism, if you like what is done here in this space, please contribute. Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. Get the likes up. If you want to send something via Cash App, you can do it. Cash App, $ BMI 3000. Cash App, $ BMI 3000. Cash App, $ BMI 3000. We are talking about Magazine Dreams and Jonathan Majors. I had to come out here, man. I had to come out here. I had to come out here and talk about this. But let me tell you guys, let me go ahead and begin and jump into this thing. Let me just go ahead. I want to be raw, and I want to be as direct and explicit with you as I possibly can. I'm going to say this to you guys. After I watched this film one time, I watched it the first time I watched it. The first time I watched this film, I walked out of the theater and I went home and I was a bit perplexed. I was perplexed. And let me just emphasize that. I was perplexed. I was befuddled. I found myself in a place where I couldn't quite identify the words that were needed to express what I had just witnessed in a theater. I'm just going to say that. I'm just going to say that out the back. When I first watched this film, Magazine Dreams, and I watched it Thursday night, I went to a theater. I went to a 9:15 p.m. showing. I was the only person in the theater. Let me say that to you again. I watched this film. The first time I watched it, I was the only person in the theater. Okay? The only person. So I watched this film by myself on a Thursday night. And that's okay. And that's fine. I'm a grown man. I don't need to be surrounded by 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 people. I don't need that. But I need to say that just as a point of information for you guys. Okay? And I watched it, and the film is a little over 2 hours and what have you. And I watched closely. I took in the acting, and I don't have to tell you that Jonathan Majors is an amazing actor. He does not have to prove anything. This man, this artist, he has absolutely nothing to prove in terms of his craft. This black man, Jonathan Majors, he is an actor. Jonathan Majors is a thespian. This is someone who has mastered his craft. This is someone who is dedicated to what he does. So there was no question about the performance. No question about it whatsoever. So the performance was stellar. It was. But there was a story that's there. It's a performance connected to a story with a set of themes. And I have to be honest to you guys. I had mixed emotions. My feelings were divided about it. My feelings were so divided that I asked myself, okay, if I were to do a review of this film, do I say that this is a good film, this is an excellent film, or do I say this is a mediocre film, or this is a bad film, or what have you? And in all honesty, I'm not going to put any value judgment on the film. That's it. I'm not going to put any value judgment on it. I say go and see it. Go and see it. Go and see it. I looked at the writing, the script writing in particular. I looked at the plot. I looked at the characters and the character development. And there's a lot that's there, a lot of layers that are there. Okay. So let me just say that I walked out the theater without words. That's the point that I want to make right here. I walked out the theater without words. I was not able to articulate in a very, very concise fashion what I had just witnessed with this film. Let me go a little bit deeper. So we're talking about a film that's about a black man. We're talking about a film that is about a black man who is passionate about a particular vocation, that is bodybuilding. A film about a black man who is devoted to excellence in his craft. And though devoted this black man is to his craft, he has challenges. He has problems. He has struggles, which is not a bad thing. Not a bad thing in the film. Not a bad thing. But it was the nature. It was the nature of the struggles, the nature of the challenges that this man dealt with. And let me say that. So I walked out the film not having the words to articulate what I just saw. So because I did not have those words, I said, okay, I have to watch this film again. I have to watch this film again. I have to give it a second viewing. And in all honesty, with certain films, and this is one of those films, I'm like, okay, you have to give it a second viewing, you have to give it a third viewing. But I said, okay, if I give this film a second viewing, then I think I might be able to have the words necessary to articulate what I witnessed. What I witnessed the first time, what I witnessed the second time. Okay? Thank you, Gregory Scotland. Gregory Scotland says that he saw the film, he said he saw some elements of Taxi Driver. Yes, I've seen that comparison. And I would say that the film has some elements not only of Taxi Driver, but it has some elements of Joker. Joker, the film Joker that came out a few years ago. Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. It has some elements of Joker, the film Joker. So I haven't seen Taxi Driver in years, so I'm going to have to go back and watch Taxi Driver. It's been a long time since I've watched that film. But I will say that the film Joker, it has some of the elements of Joker, okay? The most recent iteration of Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. But let me just say this, the title of the stream is Pumping Iron. And let me just begin, first of all, with my impressions. First of all, with my initial impressions when I watched this film. And then after I watched it a second time. If you guys have never seen the documentary that made Arnold Schwarzenegger famous, if you guys have never seen the 1977 film Pumping Iron, I suggest that you watch Pumping Iron. If you have not watched the most recent versions of Pumping Iron, which have nothing to do with Arnold Schwarzenegger, but have all to do with the whole sport of bodybuilding, you can pull up Pumping Iron 2 and 3 and Pumping Iron, A New Generation. You can pull that stuff up on Netflix if you've never seen it. But immediately, the first thing that came to my mind was the documentary Pumping Iron. And I have the documentary Pumping Iron, and I have watched Pumping Iron too many times to name. The documentary Pumping Iron was the film that made Arnold Schwarzenegger famous. Pumping Iron was the singular cinematic event that popularized the sport of bodybuilding at the end of the 1970s. If you've never seen Pumping Iron, watch Pumping Iron. It's available on streaming. Watch Pumping Iron. And Pumping Iron was a film that pulled back the curtain. It pulled back the curtain on the sport of bodybuilding. It pulled back the curtain. And let me just give y'all some information about me. I've had a fascination with bodybuilding. I've had a fascination with fitness for decades and decades and decades. I was an athlete. I played football. I was a wrestler. When I was much younger, I was a gym rat and working out and all that kind of stuff like that. So, and nutrition, trying to take care of my body and all that kind of stuff. When I was a much younger man, we're talking about, decades ago. I mean, I'm still into fitness now. I do old man fitness. I don't do the fitness of a bodybuilder. I do not. I gave up bodybuilding fitness a long time ago. But as a young man, I watched Pumping Iron because I had an interest in bodybuilding and who bodybuilders were and everything that went into bodybuilding. And bodybuilding at that particular time, when that film was released, bodybuilding was not really considered a mainstream sport. It was not considered something that was legitimated by the world, by the athletic world, the world of fitness and what have you. At that particular time, the bodybuilders, they were seen as freaks. They were seen as weirdos, okay? Because the question that was often raised to these guys is why are these people spending hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of their lives working on muscle? And why were they so obsessed about competing in competitions, competing in Mr. Olympia, competing in all of the events relating to the entire sport of bodybuilding? Bodybuilding was a niche activity. Bodybuilding was something that was confined to a subculture. It was a subculture. And the bodybuilders were not very respected outside of their bodies. These guys were seen as, unintelligent. They were seen as Neanderthals. When everybody goes to work, you can go to work in the factory. You can go to work and become a mechanic. You can become a plumber. You can become a carpenter. You can go to college. There's so many things that you could do with your life in order to make money and to make something of yourself beyond spending hours and hours and hours and hours and hours in a gym trying to compete for a trophy. But at any rate, Pumping Iron opened the door. It pulled the curtain back on bodybuilding. And it showed you the lifestyle of these guys. And it showed you what they did in the gym, what they did outside the gym. It was very, very good for Arnold Schwarzenegger because what it did was it gave the world a very broad and holistic view of who Arnold Schwarzenegger was as a person. Because Schwarzenegger was just a very genetically gifted human being. He had a thick Austrian accent and what have you. And Schwarzenegger used that film to show his personality, to show his ability to entertain beyond just being on stage. And that opened the door for Schwarzenegger to not only dominate his chosen field of bodybuilding at that time, but to become an entertainer. So when I watched this film, Magazine Dreams, it took me back to Pumping Iron, because what Magazine Dreams does is it pulls back the curtain. It pulls back the curtain. It pulls back the curtain. Now, we're talking about decades later. Today, bodybuilding is a legitimate sport. Bodybuilding is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Bodybuilders do a lot. It's an international enterprise. Bodybuilding is a serious thing. It's just a very, very serious thing. And it's normalized. Bodybuilding is normalized. All right. But this film, Magazine Dreams, pulled the curtain back with this guy, this black guy, this young black guy who is passionate about this thing called bodybuilding. And this is a black guy who wants to be seen, who wants to be recognized. He wants to be visible. He wants to be famous. He has aspirations. He has ambitions, so on and so forth. So that's one of the good things about this film, because there are a lot of black guys. Here's the other thing. There are a lot of black guys who are bodybuilders. There are a lot of black guys who are in this sport. And there are a lot of black guys who have achieved a lot in the sport. But you don't often get a whole bunch of stories about these guys. You get some stories, but you don't get the deep stories about these guys. So that's one thing I want to put out there. Okay, that's one thing I want to put out here about this film. Okay, so it's almost like a documentary in some sense, but it's a deep dive and what have you. Now that I've gotten that out the way with the Pumping Iron stuff, let me just go straight for the jugular. Let me go straight for the jugular. So guys, at this moment in time, there is a huge effort to address men and masculinity. There's a huge effort right now. There's a renewed effort to address men and masculinity. Let me get that out there. And let me just say the manosphere won. The black manosphere won. The manosphere won. The black manosphere won. The red pill won. All of these enterprises which have flourished on the internet between the last 10 to 15 years have won. And the reason why I say that is because we are in a situation right now, a new situation, where there is a renewed effort to understand masculinity, the masculinity of young men in particular. It is a consequence. It is a consequence of the red pill. It is a consequence of the manosphere. It is a consequence of the black manosphere. It is a consequence of men's voices, which is a good thing. But there is But there is a negative side to it. I need to say this, guy. There's a negative side. There is a negative side to what we're dealing with right now. And we've seen this over the last 5 or 6 years in terms of the way in which feminist, male feminist, leftists and liberals have framed masculinity in the United States. There's a negative side of it. And what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? You guys already know about the way in which liberals and leftists and feminists talk about toxic masculinity. You guys know about that. And these people, these liberals, these leftists, and these feminists, they continue to attempt to control the definition of masculinity, the definition of what is good masculinity or what is healthy masculinity and what is unhealthy masculinity or negative masculinity. They continue to do that. And there are men and there are women, they're in journalism, they're in academia, they're in Hollywood, who are intent in maintaining that there is something inherently pathological, something inherently flawed, something inherently evil about being a man. They continue to do this. And this film is a convergence. It's a convergence. It is a convergence of manosphere perspectives, liberal perspectives, feminist perspectives on masculinity. And a black male and a black male's narrative, a black male's experience is used as cannon fodder, is used as a case study to deal with all of these things simultaneously. So this is a Hollywood art film, and it has so many elements in it. And you have to be very, very critical as you watch this film. You have to be very, very critical. The storyline is substantive. The acting is substantive. There's so much there. But this is also a film that attempts to speak to where we are at this moment in time when it comes to young men in general, young black men in particular, when it comes to young men who have not been supported by society, who have been written off, young men who are in a situation where they have to find their way in the world on their own without any institutional interventions or mechanisms to help them navigate the stages of life. I'm going to say that. Peace, Art New Style, man. Good to see you. Good to see you. Y'all get the likes up. Get the likes up. Get the likes up. Pumping Iron. These are thoughts on this film. These are thoughts on this film. Now, the screenwriter, the writer is a black man. The screenwriter is a black man. Jonathan Majors is the executive producer on this film. So I'm not going to put it all on white masculinity, but the screenwriter of this film is a black man, and the executive producer is Jonathan Majors, who was also a black man. And what's going on is that they're trying to speak to a variety of audiences through this film. A variety of audiences. Now, let me go deeper. Let me go deeper. And I'm not going to talk chapter by chapter, verse by verse in this film. There is an incel. There is an incel, a heavy incel focus in this film. There is an incel focus in this film. And it's an incel focus that I myself find problematic. The incel. Let me just say this, guys, is that there has been this talk about this phenomenon of incels over the last several years. Involuntarily celibate people. And it's a very, very negative focus and framing of certain type of men. And the liberal media over the last several years have framed the incels, or people who are classified, who they classify as incels, as being very dangerous. Moreover, the liberal feminist media has done a serious job in reporting on incels as though inceldom is some pervasive phenomenon in our society. That there is an incel epidemic in the Western world. There's an epidemic of incels in the Western world. They have done this over several years now. Now, I will be the first to say to you that there are people who are classified as incels who do exist. But I do not embrace the idea that incels are an epidemic and that incels represent a major national security problem for Western societies. I don't buy that framing. But this is a framing that you get in liberal media. This is a framing that you get in feminist media. And you get some of this from some of the red pill guys as well. That there is this incel mythology. There is this incel mythology that is pervasive all across media. And what's interesting about this incel mythology is that the people who talk about incels, they can never give you any numbers. They can never give you any data. They can never give you any statistics about incels. They can never give you that. they can never give you any evidence or proof that would substantiate a claim that suggests that incels represent an epidemic in Western societies. So this film, Magazine Dreams, has an incel problem. It has a major, major incel problem. And it has an incel problem that you have to question. You have to question. Now, along those lines, here on YouTube and on TikTok and other places, there has been a lot of talk about guys. They don't call them incels, but they call them gym sales. They call them gym sales. Y'all get the likes up, get the likes up, get the likes up. There are a whole bunch of videos. If you search here on YouTube and you type in the word gym sale, GYMCELL, gym sale. If you type in the term gym sale, you will find a whole bunch of videos that's going to come up. And a gym sale is basically a gym rat. Someone who lives in a gym. And generally, the gym sale videos, the gym sale content has to do with young men who spend exorbitant hours working out, working on their bodies, staying in shape, perfecting their bodies, developing their bodies, and they develop their bodies at the expense of other dimensions and portions of their lives. It's the body game. Shout out to Rom Wheels. I want to give a shout out to Rom Wheels. Y'all get the likes up, Rom Wheels. Rom Wheels is always talking about the body game, the body game, the body game, the body game. And how the body game is used to attract women, It's about self-improvement, But there is a dimension to the body game that is not focused solely and exclusively on being attractive to women. There is a dimension of the body game that involves other things. That you have guys who are trying to improve their self-concept. They're trying to improve their self-esteem. They want to feel better about themselves. They want to look better. That sort of thing. But these guys tend to confine all of their time to working out. That's it. They're obsessed with it. And this film fits into the phenomenon of the gym sale. The gym sale. The guy who does not have any other investments beyond developing his physique. And that's it. He does not have any deep social skills. His focus on the gym and the gym alone has made him an antisocial individual. It has made him socially awkward. because he has not gone out into the world and attempted to deal with other human beings who have absolutely nothing to do with gym life and fitness and working out, so on and so forth. So that's a major thing. And I have to say, in all honesty, that I think that the gym cell thing, I think that the gym cell phenomenon is a real phenomenon. But I'm going to say this, the gym cell phenomenon is not something that is just limited to men. The gym cell phenomenon is not something that is restricted to men. You have a lot of women who can be classified or categorized as gym cells. You have lots of women who have given themselves over to fitness and working out and exercising, so much so that they have not developed other aspects of their lives. And these people, in many respects, use fitness, they use exercise and working out as a compensation for a whole lot of things. There's something seemingly, perceivedly lacking in their lives, and they use working out to overcompensate for it, or they're trying to overcome something. They might have what people call trauma in their past or what have you, and they're trying to get over the trauma and the pain or whatever, that they're trying to overcompensate for something. And Magazine Dreams fits into that type of narrative. It fits into it. So this film is dealing with a lot of these contemporary things that are happening all around us right now, particularly with young people, young men. But we got to go deeper. We have to go deeper. We have to go deeper. We have to go deeper. And like I said to you guys when I started this stream, this is not a review. I'm not doing a review of this film. I'm not doing a review. I'm not doing a scene by scene, play by play, chapter by chapter, verse by verse analysis of this film. I'm just giving you some thoughts. I'm giving you some impressions, so on and so forth. This is a film about a man who is troubled, deeply, deeply, deeply troubled. And this young man is plagued seemingly by a deep internal pathology. A deep internal pathology that's within inside of him. So much so that this man's pathology is addressed through therapy, through mental health services. His pathology, his perceived pathology, is addressed through steroid abuse. Steroid abuse. Emotional instability. The inability to regulate his emotions. The difficulty in engaging in self-constraint and control. And since we're talking about a Black American man, since we are talking about a Black American man, thank you, Keith Murray. Thank you, Kevin Murray, for that. Yeah, body dysmorphia. Since we're talking about a Black American man, the stigma is multiplied. The pathology is multiplied. It is over the top. It is over the top. You get the image of the black beast. You get the image. You get the image of the black beast in this film. The black male as a beast. Franklin Richards, thank you for that. He said he see the same thing. I'm 53 and I've been lifting for almost 40 years, and I'm seeing people become completely one-dimensional. Their whole persona is based on the gym. Yes, absolutely. It's a real thing. It's a real thing, brother. It's a real thing. They are doing this. Yes, they are. They define themselves through narrow means. The black beast. Now, here's the thing. There is a struggle in this film that this man has that I think is not atypical. It is not atypical of a black male struggle. I'm not going to go into details about the subtext of the film and the storylines that give us insight into this guy's life and personality and what have you. But I will say that as a film that features a black male character, I have to say that I can see some black men dealing with what this guy dealt with in this film. And I have to be honest with you guys, I asked myself, and I'm going to do some more digging into this. I had to ask myself the question, you know, what was the inspiration of this film? Is this purely a work of fiction? Whose life is this film based on? Whose life is this film based on? Is this film based on any man? Is it based on a white man? Is this a film that was initially written, even though the screenwriter is a black man? Is it inspired by a black male story? Is it inspired by a white male story? Because in all honesty, there's a lot in this film that crosses race. It crosses race. The way I'm looking at the storyline, a white man could have portrayed this character. Now, they would have twisted it in a different way with a white man, a white male character, but this is not, the storyline itself is not 100% race specific, although it does have a race black male dimension to it, component. And I asked myself, well, if this was written about a white man, or if it was inspired by a white man, did the screenwriter shift things up and as he shifted things up in the writing, he added a black male dimension to it? That's the question that I asked. The other part of it is that we're dealing with a black male from a working class background. This is a working class man. We're not talking about a black male from the middle class, a black male from the upper middle class. We are talking about basically a working class young black man. And Dr. J is absolutely right. Ralph Ellison's Class and Work, the Invisible Man, rather, Invisible Man. Very much there. That was very much there. Very much there. And you have this thing about recognition and being seen. Now, the one thing that stood out in the film to me that I thought was noteworthy and laudable, the thing that was good about this film, one of the good things about this film, is that it shows a man who has a calling. It shows a man who is devoted, who is dedicated to a craft, who has a goal, who is ambitious, who is aspirational, who's trying to rise above the ordinary circumstances that he finds himself in life. He's trying to rise above all those things. And he's driven to transcend the very mundane aspects of his life. That's what I saw, which is good. Ambition and drive, dedication. He was driven. A man who was driven. That's a good thing. This was a film, guys, as I said before, this was a film that was very, very difficult for me to process. And in fact, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I thought twice about coming out here. I thought twice about coming out here and talking about this film because it was very difficult to process. It's not an easy film to process. I'm going to put it like that. It's not an easy film to process. And in all honesty, I thought seriously, even before coming out here, I thought seriously about not even addressing the film at all. I know Dr. Johnson did an entire 4-hour stream on it, but I thought seriously about not addressing the film at all because it is not an easy film to process. In all honesty, when I watched the trailer of the film, I was moved by the trailer. I watched the trailer, and I watched the trailer when the trailer was released. I watched the trailer several times, and I said, "Oh my God, I've got to see this film. Oh my God, I've got to see this film." And additionally, I said, "Oh my God, this is the return of Jonathan Majors. This is the return of Jonathan Majors. After all that this brother has experienced over the last 2.5 years, I'm like, yes, this is the return of this brother. This is the return of Jonathan Majors, man. I got to see this film." Because the emotion comes out, the pathos comes out in the trailer. It comes out in the film too. But I did think twice about commenting on the film. That's why I decided not to do a chapter by chapter, verse by verse review of the film. I just needed to get out the thoughts that I had after watching the film 2 times. And I'm going to say this, I'm not going to be out here too long. I truly hope that Jonathan Majors really makes that turn. I really hope that this is a part of his reinvention. This is a part of the remix of Jonathan Majors and the reintroduction of Jonathan Majors on the world stage. I really hope that this is it. This guy is an extraordinary performer. And there were great performances all throughout the film. Like I said, I'm not going to go into all the dimensions of it. This is not the purpose of this stream. I really hope that this is his reintroduction to the stage in the face of all the stuff that he's gone through, court battles and the like, over the last 2.5 years. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up the chat for anyone. I'm open up the chat. Don't feel compelled. You're not compelled to come up. If you've seen this film, and again, I'm not doing a review of the film. I'm just giving you some thoughts about the film. If you wanted to make some comments, I'm opening the chat up. The chat is open for comments, reactions, impressions, so on and so forth. I will open it up, and you have to be identifiable. I need to be able to identify you if you come up, so we can't have any ghost accounts. There's no coercion on my part. But I just wanted to say some things about what I saw initially the first time and the second time that I watched this film. And as I said, this film it's not an easy film. It's not an easy film to talk about. I'm just going to put it like that. It's not an easy film. But as I said before, guys, that what's happening in our world right now and all the conversations happening around masculinity, and we are in a different political moment right now. We're going to see more films. I'm going to say this. We're going to see more films like this. I don't think they're going to have as much depth, but I'll put it like this. We're going to see more productions. There are going to be more productions as time goes by dealing with men and masculinity, which attempt to grapple with all of the layers and complexities of masculinity in the world today. And what I'm going to say, and what I want to say about that is that in light of where Hollywood is, including the independent cinema people, they're going to fail. They're going to fail at adequately dealing with the issues pertaining to men in general and Black men in particular. I've been watching all of the discourse. I've been watching all of the discourse. I've been watching all of the discourse around masculinity and the Democratic Party, and how the Democratic Party has completely failed, and that the Democratic Party does not know how to deal with where we are right now, given the shifts and given the fact that young men and men writ large are moving away from all of the demonization and pathology coming out of the Democratic Party directed towards men and boys. And they don't know how to fix their problem. They have no vocabulary for it. They don't have the sensibilities for it. So we're going to see a lot of attempts and efforts to address masculinity, which in the end are going to be very limited. I've got Dr. T.S. Johnson in the house, man. What's going on, my brother? How are you? Good to see you, brother.
I'm good, man. How about yourself?
Man, I'm well, man. I'm well, man. You know, I wasn't trying to control anybody, man. And I know you doing your thing, and I know you've already done your review and all that, man. Um, but I'm glad you came up, man. Man, talk to us, man. What are your thoughts? And I know you've already, Dr. J did a whole 4-hour stream on this. Man, talk.
Well, yeah. First, I want to apologize. I won't take up too much of your time. You caught me making some jambalaya, but I had to support my brother. You know what I mean? And I wanted to commend you, man, because honestly, when I saw it Thursday,
Yeah.
and I didn't realize until Wednesday that the one
Mhm.
showing they had on Thursday was the last showing for the entire city in
Oh my
Fresno.
God.
So I took my time. I thought I'll see it, and then I'll see it again, and then I may do
Mm-hmm.
something about it. But
Mm-hmm.
I have
Mm-hmm.
one showing,
Mm-hmm.
and that was it. And just like what you said, once you
Mm-hmm.
saw it that once, you said I gotta see it again.
Mm-hmm.
Now I didn't expect that I was gonna have the same feeling. I just thought, all right, I'll see it. I usually watch films twice before I review it, but
Yeah.
since this is the last showing, I'll see it and then I'll do a show on it. I
Mm-hmm.
was frozen.
Mm-hmm.
I was frozen. I needed more data. I needed to see it again, but I
Yeah.
couldn't.
Yeah.
So, as you stated earlier, Layman's Journal, Artisan MC, and Malika
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
came up and we chopped it up. And I needed that
Mm-hmm.
because, as you said, this is a film you gotta chew on. You gotta sit with
You got to
for a
sit with it,
minute. You can't just get up and just you have to deal with it, and you dealt with it, and that was the only way I could. So I wanted to commend you first for even putting that out, brother, because this was
man.
not a
Mm-hmm.
difficult, I mean, this was not an easy watch. I
It's not.
cringed.
Oh man. Oh my God.
I cringed. A
So did
lot of the
I.
film was cringe, man. I
Yeah.
the last half of it, I was waiting for it to end, in fact,
I
because
was
it
the
was
same.
just, yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, I even when I went to see it the second time, I was like, okay, am I gonna be able to sit through the whole film? Right? I mean, that's how it was. You say it was cringe. I felt the same way
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
was like, okay, am I gonna be able to sit through this whole thing, without saying, okay, when is it gonna end? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And that's how difficult it was watching. You know what I mean? And that's why I said earlier, I was like, I wrestled. I'm like, do I want to talk about this? I mean, do I
Yeah.
want to talk about this, with the
Yeah.
brothers and everything like that? Should I just leave it alone?
But
And
it's
do I want to? It's so deep. It's like I know, like you're more adept than me, man. You schedule your streams and stuff like that, and I was like, man, do I want to schedule this? You know what I mean? And and it's like I was like, yeah, I was reluctant.
yeah.
I was reluctant to engage it here, what we're doing right now, man, because it's not an easy film.
No, I did the same exact thing you did, man, because I have film reviews I do on Patreon. And
Hmm.
so we were reviewing Captain America, and Artisan
Hmm.
and a couple other brothers was in there, and they reminded me about the movie because I
Hmm.
didn't see any press, I didn't see any advertisements, because
Hmm.
this movie's been on the shelf for a couple years.
Hmm.
So I knew it was coming out, but I forgot, and I didn't see any advertisements that reminded me. So the brother, Artisan, said, "Look, go watch it." And he said, maybe we can review it. So I said, well, okay, we'll do it. We'll do it. I think I said Friday, or I forget which day.
Hmm. Hmm.
And when I saw it, I said, you know what? I don't know if I'm really in the spirit to do a review. I almost canceled it, but I had a
Okay.
private conversation with Layman's
Okay.
Journal, and
Okay.
we chopped it up. And I was like, okay, there's, all right, let's do this. But yeah, man. And what you were saying a moment ago about dealing with the politics of men
Yeah.
and what's going on with men in regard
Yeah.
to political parties, you're dead on,
Yeah.
because they have the left has discarded us,
Yes.
almost across race, unless you're LGBT. They don't deal.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
The closest thing you could call them embracing masculinity is if you're dealing with LGBT,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
where you're dealing with. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And the thing about it, I mean, we know Hollywood, right? We know Hollywood, and we
Hmm.
know that influence is so heavy there, you know,
Yeah.
and especially in the independent film world. Um,
Yep.
and it came out in the film. Now it came out heavily. That's why I
Hmm.
say I'm not going to go chapter and verse. You know what I
Right.
mean? Um, it was there, and and like I said, this is a convergence of liberal pathology, feminist pathology, and kind of red pill stuff and manosphere stuff and everything. You know what I mean? So it's like you got all these elements and all this kind of stuff going on. And what's so interesting? So it's like even when you look at the manosphere, there are certain compartments of the manosphere that pathologize men. Okay, and especially certain kind of guys, all this performance and improving your life and blah 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 and social skills and everything like that. You've got that on the manosphere, and a lot of that stuff is like adjacent to the right. And then you have the other side. You have the left wing liberal feminist side, which also pathologizes men, which says that, men don't have souls, they just don't have they're emotionally bankrupt and all that kind of stuff, and just everything is toxic and pathological, and incel stuff, you know what I mean? And so you got all these elements that are operating simultaneously, okay? And that's one of the things that make it, very, very difficult, you know and to watch, and then they used a black male story and a black male character, you know as this kind of mascot, as this figure where all this stuff is kind of unloaded on this character. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
Right.
and at the same time, they are using black male trauma and black male pain and stuff that black men deal with. Okay, and so that's what makes it it's just it makes it extraordinarily difficult to watch, and that's why I couldn't come out and just say, okay, I can't give it a value. I can't do any real value judgments, right? It's like
True.
I can't say I don't want to say it's good. I don't want to say it's bad. You know what I mean? I don't want to take a neutral stance to it, but it's just that's why I say it's not easy. It's difficult.
Right.
Uh, um, TIQS, man, thank you for that support, man. We appreciate you, man. I'm glad that
Indeed.
you're here, man, and we always appreciate your support, man, for being here, man. When I broadcast, shout out to Passport OG. Good to see you, man.
What up,
Always glad,
Passport?
always glad when you're here, man. Always glad when you're here, man. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Everett M, what's happening, man? Love to you too, brother. Much love to you, man. Good to see you. Good to see you. Um, um, Mr. Lavo, man, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for the kind words, my brother. Thank you for the kind words. Yeah. Um, so yeah, man, I was just reluctant, man. And and really I came out, this evening, I know it's afternoon your time and everything like that, but it was like, okay, let me get this off my chest because I was still thinking about it. It's like, okay, on one hand, I'm reluctant to talk about this film, but on the other hand, I got these thoughts about this film. I got these thoughts, you know,
Right.
and it was like one of the thoughts, and I mentioned it here. It was the incel thing, you know,
Hmm.
and the incel
Yeah,
thing.
they called him an incel at one point.
Yeah, they called him
People
incel.
online.
Yeah, they called him incel. Yeah, and the incel thing, it bothered me, because that word is so thrown around
Yes.
casually and
Mhm.
without any discipline or without any research. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And especially when I see like these liberal feminists and whatever talk about incels and all this kind of stuff and everything. I'm like, do you all have you talked to these people? Do you know these people? Do you have the curiosity to dig in to find out who these individuals who you're calling incels are? You know what I mean? And for me, there's a lot of mythology and propaganda that's around that kind of stuff, and it's used to pathologize and demonize people. And we don't do it with the women, the fem cells. It's like, okay, the fem cells. This is like, oh, there's nothing. They're cool. You don't pathologize a woman who's perceivingly isolated, emotionally disjointed, just there's something she needs therapy and all that kind of stuff. There's no pathology imposed upon her, right? But with these males, and yeah, man, so it was very, very
No,
difficult.
but you're dead on because you're identifying that incel has become a very politicized
Yeah,
linguistic tool
yeah,
to invoke a form of misandry
yeah.
that is unrecognized because misandry in and of itself is not politically recognized.
No,
So people can hurl these missiles at each
yeah,
other in public in regard to
yeah.
men using terms like incel without having to hold on to the responsibility of the terms they're using. And we have not, as a collective of men across
Hmm.
race,
Hmm.
we have not held people's feet to the fire
Mm.
that use these terms. And as a matter of fact, we're seeing in television shows and films that they've been using these terms for a while now,
Yeah.
but we have not caught on to holding them accountable. And I'm about to watch this series, Adolescence. I keep meaning
Oh,
to get to it, but something
oh,
keeps popping up. But Adolescence is the latest TV series where they're
yes.
attacking men using this concept of incels.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
there have been a few. There was an Amazon show, I believe it was Amazon, called The
Hmm.
Power a
Hmm.
couple years ago, where
Hmm.
women wake up with this ability to generate electricity and attack people.
Oh
And
my
they
God.
talked about incels there, and they even had a whole manosphere
Yeah.
on there that they were ridiculing and dismissing and making fun of. The
Hmm.
show Evil with Michael Coulter, the brother who played Luke Cage.
Hmm.
His recent show, I think it went a couple seasons. I think it just got canceled, but
Hmm.
they had a manosphere there that was that was actually being created by a demon. So you can see the
Yeah.
denigration that's been taking place. There's a
Yes.
media war, and that's not even dealing with
Yes.
the FBI attacks on male
Oh my God.
content creators. So we
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
that this is happening, but in many ways we haven't responded, especially in regard to politics. Now the difference lately is that Trump took a different approach, and
Hmm.
I'm not saying this as a right winger. I'm just pointing out what took place. To my understanding, Trump's son
Hmm.
told him about spaces online, content
He did.
creators, men
He
making
did.
content. And Trump's attitude was really the attitude of any politician that wants to get elected. He said, "Well, these are voting men.
Hmm.
And if the left is going to disregard a voting population, okay."
Hmm.
And he picked it up.
And it's only natural. It is only natural that you have young men and adult men who would gravitate politically to someone or to some space or to a political party that is not going to denigrate them.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
especially when you have a political party that majors in denigrating them
You
and
see that?
demonizing them.
Yep.
K through 12 and everything like that, man. I know you saw this, man. You've got these people. You've got the governor of Maryland. Um, you've got the black man who was the governor. I can't think of his name.
Uh-huh.
Um, and you've got the governor of Michigan. I think her name was Gretchen Whitmire or something like that. And so now you have these Democrats, these liberals who are trying to put forth initiatives in their respective states that deal with men, you know,
Hmm.
and seemingly it's a response to what the Republicans or what the right has accomplished in terms of the male vote. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But even with that, and I saw the governor of Maryland, who was a black man. I saw him he was the Aspen Institute. They did this thing. I think you've seen it as well, with Richard Reeves, and you had somebody else, and they were talking about the situation with men and boys and stuff like that. So you have these liberal Democratic guys, who want to deal with masculinity issues and men and boys issues, but they still have they have this liberal baggage. They still have this kind of feminist baggage, and I'm like, this stuff simply doesn't work. It just does not work,
Hmm.
in as much as they are concerned and they want to approach, men and boys and what have you. You're going to have to at some point draw a line in the sand and say, listen, these approaches that have come out the left and liberalism and feminism, they don't address this stuff, and
Hmm.
and it takes serious labor. It's going to take some serious labor. I just saw a video, Jordan Peterson, and it is funny. The right has their cadre of people. You have some people like him, um, educated professional scholars and stuff like that who have been dealing with it from the standpoint of the right and what have you. Um, but Peterson, he's talking to Megan Kelly, and he's like, the this new concern that the Democrats have and liberals have about men is too little and it's too late. He said this. He said we've been demonizing men for the past 60 years, and now you want to talk about education. Now you want to talk about men going into the healed professions as um, Richard Reeves talks about it. You know what I mean? Going into health and education and that sort of thing, going into fields that are typically dominated by women. You know what I mean? And it's like you've spent all these decades denigrating men, and you think that you're going to turn the corner, in a short period of time or what have you. You know what I mean? And he went in on the Department of Education, and when I hear him talk, when you hear him talk, he really goes hard on people who are in the whole arena of education. You know what I mean? Schools of education and universities. And and I have to agree with him. He is absolutely right. Schools of education in universities and colleges all across the country have contributed to the situation that we're in right now. Okay, and now these so-called liberals or Democrats, whatever, because they're losing elections and they're going to be losing elections in the future. Okay, now they got to pivot. You know, and what's driving a lot of that is the fact that they want votes. They want votes, which means that they really don't have the kind of investment that is needed to address a lot of these issues, man. You know, and
Well,
so
even
go ahead.
well, I was gonna say real quick. Even Van Jones recently
Hmm.
did a show where he talked about the problem on the left is that they had developed a platform where all white people were racist and
Hmm.
all men were toxic,
Yeah.
and he kind of laid out this framework. And I
Hmm.
think he missed by also not adding that all heterosexuals are considered,
Yes.
heteronormatively oppressive, and
Yeah.
all poor people were irrelevant. But
Yeah.
his point was, as long he said, when you create this platform that alienates people, and then they leave, you can't be mad that they left. You
You can't be.
alienated them in the first place.
You can't. You can't. You can't. Mr. Lavo, man, thank you about this, man. Thank you. Thank you for this contribution. Lavo says we can add sale to the things they do. Brunch sale, yoga sale, Pilates sale. He said they
Yeah.
dissuade them men from any and everything. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that's, yeah, you alienate them. And I'm at a point right now is that I don't blame them. I don't blame the men
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
for shifting. You know what I'm saying? And here's the thing: you don't have to agree with everything that's on the right to
Right.
shift.
Right.
You don't have to embrace everything. You understand what I'm saying? But you go, as they say, you go where you're appreciated.
Yeah, well, and even if that's to your couch,
Yeah,
or right, there a lot
yeah.
of people voted for the couch, as it were, and just
Hmm.
withdrew. They didn't like any of the candidates, and everybody lost their votes. This is
Hmm.
something that the left more than the right has to take more seriously, because Kamala was really thinking that there was going to be a feminist wave, a wave of
Hmm.
women that just at the mention of losing abortion rights were going to come
Oh yeah.
over and just have this tidal wave where they take over every branch of government. And she found, like pretty much any other politician in the last century, that you need a collective across demographics.
Cross them
But
graphics.
she figured it out too late. I mean, you saw when she tried to cater to us,
Hmm.
black men, at the last second with this
Hmm.
weak agenda that she did, that which was very reminiscent of what's her name in Georgia,
Abrams,
Stacey
Abrams,
Stacey Abrams.
Stacey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same philosophy. It was weak. It had no teeth to it. And it didn't really communicate that you'd actually ever listen to men. It was just something that looked cobbled together, but
Hmm.
she figured it out too late. And of course, everybody blamed black men.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and the thing is that they're not going to be able to recover from any of this.
Brand terribly.
They're not going to recover because the Democratic, what we're seeing now, from my vantage point, that the Democratic Party cannot sustain itself if it's a party that is supported mainly by liberal women and LGBTQ people, because basically that's what they are right now. And professional, educated people who are women and who are a part of the LGBTQ, you know, and it's not going to happen. You on mute?
No.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it's not going to happen. And the other thing is that, films like this, see, the challenging thing about this film is it's hard to figure out at times. It looks like it's catering to the
Hmm.
stereotypes against men and black men in
Yes,
particular.
yes,
But then at other times, it leans into issues that black men face, that men face, that nobody wants to talk about.
yeah.
And I will say throughout the course of our discussions, one of the things we discovered is some of the time we thought the film was catering, there was actually some nuance to what was happening
Hmm.
that went beyond the surface.
Hmm. Hmm.
Nuance that, really reinforced that the film was actually bringing to light what some black men experienced. So there are layers to this, but
Yes.
I think more than anything, what the film does is it highlights the importance of media
Hmm.
in interpreting and accepting men. And I would say in the next 4 years, this is going to be crucial to any
Hmm.
party that
Hmm.
really wants to, to really gain men's support. You're going
Hmm.
to actually have to demonstrate that you understand what
Hmm.
men are going through
Hmm.
and that you're willing to take the time to listen.
Hmm.
See,
Hmm.
we saw many on the left, particularly women and most particularly black women, that really, I get this in my classes. They get this idea that because they're black, they know everything about black men.
Yes.
There's this
Yes.
sense that they don't need to learn, they don't need to listen.
Oh
We're
my
all
God.
black, we
Oh my
get it.
God.
But
Oh my
even
God.
though we're all black and we get the black male experience, you got to read the books on feminism to get the black woman's experience.
Hmm.
So you
Hmm.
have this kind of one-sided demand to be understood coming
Yeah.
from women. And when they thought they had the election with
Hmm.
Kamala,
Hmm.
there was an arrogance, there was
Hmm.
an entitlement about what
Hmm.
needed to happen. And I think in many ways, you had older voters who traditionally vote Democrat, but I think you have a whole nother generation of young black men that are more indifferent, and we're starting to see those numbers grow as those men come of age.
Hmm.
And until people actually demonstrate that they give a damn,
Hmm.
these young men are, and again across race, are walking away. And I think
Hmm.
films like this are going to, not necessarily exactly like this, but films that actually pay attention to men's experiences, projects that seek to unearth what men
Hmm.
are going through, are going to become imperative
Hmm.
if you really want to communicate to men that you understand. Otherwise, keep ignoring them and watch what happens.
No, absolutely, absolutely, and I would add that these projects, though as flawed as they will continue to push men away from
Yeah.
the liberals and the feminists, the leftists, the Democratic Party, and what have you, because you still have this pathology that's there,
Right.
and it's like I'm going to be honest with you, man. I'm really wrestling with watching this series on Netflix, Adolescence,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm really wrestling with it, based on the trailers I've seen and some of the commentary that's coming out around it and everything like
Hmm.
that. And
Hmm.
I'll be, I saw Abba and Preach. They did something on it, and I'm like, okay, if they like it, that means I'm not gonna like it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. If Abba and Preach, if Abba and Preach like this film, this series rather, if they like this series, I know I'm not gonna like it. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, if the beta males like it, and the if the beta males like it, if the feminists like it, I know I ain't gonna like it. You know what I'm
Well,
saying? Even though they attempt to deal with what's going on online and with podcasts and with men's voices, because here's the narrative that they're pushing. They take someone like an Andrew Tate, and they're trying to turn Andrew Tate into this like demigod. You know what I
right.
mean? And it's
Right.
like, okay, everybody. It's like all these young men in these Western societies. They have rallied around. Andrew Tate, and he's created this cult, and the boys are going crazy, especially in the UK, you know what I mean? And I'm like, this is a major, major reduction, you know, and it trip and it's also it revels in extremism because here's the thing: they take the most extreme, as you know, you take the most extreme manifestations of male behavior and you turn it into something that's universal. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
So apparently, it's a story about some teenager, some boy, prepubescent or some teen who unalives a girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, and they want they want to turn that into a pandemic. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
And make us responsible.
they want to make it into turn it like this is like again, this is an epidemic. This is a crisis that we have to address, and blah 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 blah. And for them, always, feminism is the answer. Male feminism. This type of liberal way of dealing with gender and stuff like that. Um,
But
and
what
I'm
but
like,
what's but
mhm,
what's partial to that, what's part and partial to that too, is these films are directly pointing the finger at
mhm,
podcasters and content creators via, and because when they say what's the name, what's the name you just said? I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his
Andrew
name.
Tate, Andrew Tate,
Andrew Tate.
Andrew
Thank you.
Tate. Yeah.
When they say Andrew Tate, that's a misnomer. They're not talking about just him. They're talking about all of us. And of
Hmm.
course, they don't recognize the schisms, the ideological differences, the nuance.
Yeah.
They don't recognize that the manosphere is not just one space with one
Hmm.
component. And even within spaces like the Black manosphere, you have a wide variety of philosophies to
Hmm.
bring to bear. You got some cats that advocate for marriage, and you got some cats that are like, nah, you need to just go ahead and completely avoid women altogether. Those are the extremes, but you
Hmm.
have all kinds of different approaches. No space, this space has never been a monolith. It's a
Never.
wide variety of ideas and differences, and they're not always at war. They're just people offering different perspectives. They want to condense
Yeah.
all of that into
Yeah.
one and then they cherry pick the videos of his work.
Yeah.
Because I've seen some work where he's 100% on point. Then I've seen
Hmm.
some things that I was like, eh. But the
Hmm.
point is, they're not interested in listening. They're not interested in reflecting. If they can blame us for anybody, especially somebody who murders somebody else, and then they can point the finger at a whole space, they're good with that.
Hmm.
This is a
Hmm.
maligning attempt that they're using to dismiss and I just say to dismiss and deflect from what we're actually
Hmm.
talking about, because that's their biggest fear. The more people that actually listen to what we're talking about, the more people
Hmm.
that start paying attention. And I'm not only talking about kids, I'm talking
Uh-huh.
about grown men, I'm talking about women.
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, people want to frame Kevin Samuels as just somebody who hated women, but the majority of the people that came to his show every night were women.
Hmm. Hmm. And,
So the
and
more
see,
people that hear it, the more dangerous it becomes.
yeah, and the thing of what they don't understand is that the more that they highlight it, uh, the more interest is elevated, and directed towards it.
Absolutely,
You know what I'm saying?
absolutely, yes.
And so and it's like, okay, who is this boogeyman, or who are these boogeymen you're talking about? You know what I mean? And it just it's going to drive people to to search and dig or whatever and see, well, who are these people they're talking about? You know what I mean? And it really works against them in the long run. Thank you, Saint 69. Good to see you, man. Good to see you, my brother. Saint 69 is in the house. We appreciate you being here and everything. And Ab Media, man, good to see you, man. Good to see you, man. Salute to you, my brother. Ab Media is in the house. Ab Media 883 and what have you. Yeah, so it's going to have the reverse effect, and that is pathology, because basically that's what it is. This is just an updated way of pathologizing boys and men, and
Well,
everything.
that's what BGS calls the tar baby.
Yeah.
So every time you touch it, whether you like it or not, you're spreading it, and that's what they're doing.
And that's what they're doing. Yeah, and the fact remains, like I said, um, that side, the liberal, leftist, feminist side, they simply do not have an adequate response to this, other than what they have been doing. You know what I mean? And they don't have the sensibilities. That's why I'm at a place right now. It's like I don't even entertain conversations like with people who are staunchly feminist or male feminist or what have you. It's a
Right.
complete waste of time. It's a
It
complete
is.
waste of time because there's no curiosity on their part. They are unwilling to question their own assumptions.
Mhm.
Uh, they're too arrogant, too condescending, too smug, too snot nosed, too snooty to dig. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that only hurts them. And the thing is that this is not going away. This is not
No,
going away.
not at
These,
all.
these issues are not going away. And as far as where things are right now, especially politically, because now we're in a place, man. 4 years ago in 2020, man, we didn't see this. We
Right.
didn't see the political fallout of
Right.
this. It's kind of like it was kind of, and I kind of anticipated it, right? But to actually watch it play out in terms of actual elections, you
Right.
know what I'm saying? I mean,
Mhm.
that is for me is mind-boggling. It
Yeah.
is it blows me away that okay, this stuff has actually elevated to the level of government. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? You know what I mean? So the black male
Yes.
political agenda,
It has.
the black male political agenda is not just some theoretical thing, or not just something
Yeah.
that you know we talk about in these corners of the internet. You understand what I mean? This is a real thing in terms of the executive branch, the legislative branch, at every level of government. You understand? And you got people, hell, man, if you have a vice president who went on podcasts and talked explicitly about cat ladies and saying that, can we put the United States government in the hands of cat ladies? Okay. I mean, that is real. And he's the vice president now. You understand what I'm saying? And so JD Vance and a whole bunch of others, they know what's going on. They're connected to all this stuff. You know what I mean? Albeit from the standpoint of the white guys in the manosphere, the white guys on the right, and all that kind of stuff. But the point is that they know that there's something going on with men. Okay. And it has to be addressed. You understand? Um, and so we are in a completely different different space right now. And um, like I said before, man, the Democratic Party, the people on the left, the feminists, the liberals, they they're completely bankrupt. They don't have a real response to this, and they don't have the equipment, they don't have the tools, they don't have the wherewithal, they don't have anything. And it's reflected in the complete disintegration of the Democratic Party. And again, as you pointed to Van Jones sees it. And Van Jones is one of the few people who was honest enough to say it the way he did. That if you keep on saying that white people are evil, and that men are evil, and that everybody, all these other groups of people. And I agree with you. He didn't say a lot about class, and he didn't say a lot about heterosexuality. But it all applies. You know what I mean? If you continue to alienate people, they are going to leave you in the dust, and they are going to vote in ways that are going to make sure that these people have absolutely no influence in the places where influence matters the most, particularly in government.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But I,
Get go ahead. Gregory Scotland, I appreciate you, man. Gregory Scotland, salute to you, man. He says, salute to BMI and Dr. Johnson. The combination of the red pill awareness and female pathology on social media has only helped to make the case men to learn more. Absolutely, absolutely, man.
well,
Appreciate that,
yeah,
man. Yeah, go ahead, Doc.
because we're also seeing the withdrawal of resources that women, particularly Black women, but women in general, have felt secure in, to some extent since the 50s and some of the 60s and 70s. But my point, though, and this is why I did a show
Yeah,
a little while ago about the death of the gynocracy,
yeah.
is because the funding that has undergirded a
Hmm.
lot of that, and what eventually became a sort of structural misandry, a sort of
Hmm.
sense
Yes.
of female superiority.
Hmm.
That superstructure, that funding base has started to dissolve in the last couple of years, and I think Trump's presidency definitely symbolizes that.
Of course.
But we're actually seeing it from welfare to grant funding to so on and so forth to employment, hell, even to securing housing. Um, even though women own more houses than men, but that's
Hmm.
that's not necessarily the fault of men. I think many men are withdrawing from purchasing because they're looking at the market and the economy. But
Yeah.
even amongst those women that own more homes, you're seeing record numbers of women losing those homes. We're seeing
Hmm.
record numbers of women being evicted, whether they're renting or owning. These kinds of things, we're seeing the superstructure of this system that our grandfathers watched birthed,
Hmm.
and that you and I in our age bracket is
Hmm.
all we've known,
That's all we've known.
particularly in the Black community, is this kind of framework where more often not, women they were heads of household because they could be. They had
Hmm.
government, and they even had the force of police. All it took was a phone call, whether that phone call was placed in good faith or whether it was placed in an attempt to manipulate and control men's bodies,
Hmm.
particularly in regard to removing them from households along with family courts. They've known the security of a system that operated on their behalf more often than
Hmm.
not. And
Hmm.
now that we see that the relationship between women, Black women in particular, and these structures is falling apart, first, they're starting to live lives more and more every day the way Black men have had to live it. More and more.
Absolutely, because what all points to is the fact that really, and BGS has said this, it's become too expensive,
It's become
um,
too expensive.
in terms of
But
those who have, for those, not just for the, well, for those who have funded it, right? Because when you look at, like, you can see all these reports of all these government jobs that are being cut um, under Trump. And then you look at Doge and everything like that. I remember when all the stuff came out with US AID. You know what I
hmm
mean? You're really talking about nonprofit organizations losing their funding,
hmm
and basically those organizations are run by women, white women in particular.
exactly.
You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Yeah, and it's like, why is all this federal, all these tax dollars going to these NGOs or these nonprofits and stuff like that? You know what I mean? And ain't men are not running these nonprofits, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's not happening, um, and so it's become, too expensive, you know,
Well, and that
and
that that was that was the second thing I was going to point out. Not only has it become too expensive, but the thing about it is every other group of women in the West that invested in this feminist idea still to some extent got married.
Mm-hmm.
They still maintain relationships with their men. And
Mm-hmm.
when the shit got too thick, they went home.
Mm-hmm.
When
Yep.
Trump was elected, they went home to their
Yeah.
husbands. With us, black women didn't invest in feminism as an idea. They invested in it as a religion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And many of the linkages between black men and women had been dissolved over the
Mm-hmm.
last few decades. Um, and so when the fallout took place, um, to try to come home meant that there would be extensive dialogues that would need to take place first, and that
Mm-hmm.
it's not
Mm-hmm.
guaranteed. Now we know every group marries itself in the largest largest numbers, but black men are up around 21% in terms of marrying out. And even though
Mm-hmm.
we hear about it as something black men do because they're not loyal, they're this and that. No, the real reasons behind it
Mm-hmm.
is that black men are frustrated. They've been disowned. They've been dismissed. They've been and they've decided to, instead of waiting for black women to figure this out, that they're going to go find peace on their own terms. Now, this has meant that now
Mm-hmm.
that the relationship between the state and black women is dissolving, they're
Mm-hmm.
now starting to figure out the importance of relationships, the
Yeah.
importances of marriages, the importance of collective economy. Now they're figuring it out
And,
only
and
because they have
mm-hmm.
to.
Mm-hmm. And thank you, Revelator Spirit of Indifference, man. Glad that you're here. Glad that you're here, man. Donnie Gang, good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Peace to you. Peace to you. Gregory Scotland once again. Yeah, and the thing is that now they have a major. And here's the problem: it's a major learning curve
Yeah.
um, that they're not going to be able to leap. You know what I mean? And it's just it's too deep. It's too wide. The gap is just it's too
And
immense.
most of
You
us
know what I mean?
aren't oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You there?
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, and I think there are many black men that aren't confident that they would do this in good faith. I mean, this is, I've seen women turn 180 degrees from November to January, talking about, we don't need black men to black men, we love you, in the course of a month and a half.
Because it's about survival. It's about
Yeah,
survival. They're trying to survive, and they can't do it on those that have one income. They can't do it on one income. They're over their heads in debt, consumer debt, student loan debt, mortgage debt,
yep, yep.
all sorts of debt. And so, we're back again to this place where we're just as black men, economic utilities. You know what I mean?
Right,
And the thing about it is that I think black men right now have a higher level of consciousness and awareness of that type of utilitarianism. You know what I
hmm,
mean? And it's like, this person is here because this person has to survive, is trying to survive, and this person doesn't have any real respect for me. You know what I mean? So what
right.
you're dealing with is somebody who's wearing a mask,
Yeah,
somebody who's pretending to be something that she's really not. You know what I mean? And it's like, very smart men, they'd rather go it alone. You know what I mean? And be by themselves, or go to another group of women who have a much broader worldview. You understand? Who
well,
understand exchange.
who understand exchange, but exchange in good faith,
Yeah.
not exchange in an exploitive sense, in a mutual
Hmm.
beneficial good faith, and because there's a way to do that. And I
Hmm.
think the way we're experiencing it in the African American community is a bit problematic.
Hmm.
But you're hitting right on it, brother, because it was something you said about the mask I wanted to comment on, because I
Yeah.
think there were a lot of men that had never actually seen black women pull the mask off
Hmm.
until this electoral period behind Kamala.
Oh my God.
And
Oh
they
my
saw
God.
black women pull the mask off.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah. And
Am
and
I
and,
Borgen?
and no, I can hear you now. You were before, but I can hear you. You're coming through. Um, no, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
And and what was behind that mask was ugly, brother. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
ugly, and
Yeah.
you can only imagine. Oh my God, you can only imagine what it would be now had she won. You know what I mean? You can only
Exactly.
imagine the level of
Yes.
arrogance, the
Yes.
level of superiority. You know what I mean? That we would be dealing with. Had she won and what have you. And it's, me personally, I'm I'm glad she didn't win. I didn't vote for her and what have you.
Hmm.
Um, but now it's like, yeah, now you have to, as you said, experience the world as a black man. You
Hmm.
understand? And it's something that they are not used to. You know,
No, no,
and
there are
yeah,
no safety nets for us.
no, no, not at all. And so they're in a very, very precarious situation. And I think that men are smart, especially the young guys. The young guys. um, I think when you talk about the level of indifference that these young guys have, that's an indifference that these women help to inculcate in these guys. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
they've seen that it's like, okay, you really don't care about me. You know what I mean? And I can feel it. I can feel it in high school. I can feel it in middle
Hmm.
school.
Hmm.
Feel it in elementary school. You know what I mean?
Yes. I
And
can
and,
feel it
and
at home,
yeah, 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 yeah.
growing up and in the home with my wife. You know what I mean?
hmm Yeah, it's in the music.
Yes.
It's in the air. It's in the air that we breathe. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And so when it's that deep, you can't fault these guys, um, for going it alone or what have you, or moving, in a different way, man. Because another thing is that you have a lot of guys, and I've been thinking about this. So we have an unprecedented level of men who are not married, who adult men, who don't have any real attachments.
No children.
Yeah, no children, two women, and why should they be sympathetic? You know what I mean? It's kind of like with the abort, like when they kept pushing abortion. It's like, Michelle Obama, you need to care about abortion and women's rights and all that kind of stuff. I say a man, young men and men, and grown men who are unmarried, who don't have kids, they have no reason to be obsessed with abortion. You know what I'm saying?
True.
You know, as something that would motivate their votes, and how they vote, and that sort of thing. You know.
Man,
Uh,
I had a very difficult conversation with a brother last week. He's a teacher, and
hmm
he was telling me how many black kids were having trouble reading and doing math.
hmm
And what he wanted, he said, I want a large number of black men to start coming into the classrooms
hmm
and helping these kids.
hmm
And so I started sharing some statistics with him,
Yeah.
as far as black men being the most attentive and participatory fathers across
Yeah.
race,
Yeah.
but at the same time, having one of the highest percentages, if not the highest, in terms of not having children. And of
hmm
course, the statistics around how many more children black women have than black men.
hmm
And after I shared that with him, he was like, okay, well, what are you saying? I said, you're mostly asking men with no children
Yeah.
and often no plans on having children
Yeah.
to compensate for the decisions black women made
Yeah.
independent of black men.
Yeah.
They didn't marry, they didn't have children in marriage. Many of them pushed men out the household. And then, of
hmm
course, there are those statistics around those who had babies from non black men. And yet, somehow, all of this remains black men's fault and
hmm
responsibility to
hmm
repair when you have more and more black men saying, well, why should I be responsible when I wasn't consulted. Black
Yeah,
men aren't even consulted on their beauty standards, let
yeah,
alone their
yeah.
conduct. But now you want black men to compensate for decisions that have real world effects. And yet these black men have been responsible with their sperm.
Hmm.
They've been responsible with their money, with their employment. So I was just saying to him, it's not a moral issue. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm not saying black, I'm just simply saying you're asking men who don't see themselves as having a dog in the fight.
Yeah.
They've made sure to be responsible enough to not have children out there struggling without them. And we know the percentage around how many, what percentage of the community many of these women are having kids with, and what percentages they're not. I
Hmm.
said at some point the black community, whether it's the conscious community, or we're gonna have to learn how to hold women accountable.
Hmm.
Because the
Hmm.
only thing we know how to do is to blame black men, and this is further pushing black men away.
Yeah, and we're not living in the Jim Crow era. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
We're not. This is not. You know, we're not living in a situation where people can say that there's a village. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or there are villages. You know, because these women have made it clear
Mhm.
over decades. You know that they
Yes.
have no investment
Yes.
um, in black men. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so why should men become missionaries? Basically, you know, why should you become missionaries to a population who has made it clear for decades that in their eyes you are obsolete, you are unneeded,
Yeah.
but now that the stuff has hit the fan, you know what I mean, you want these guys to come in and to be superheroes and everything.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And you know this as someone who
Yeah,
became a nationalist at a young age the way I
yeah,
did.
yeah.
The answer in the past was always because you're black. That's why
Because you're
you should
black.
do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But the problem is that's not working on
It's
younger
not. No.
generations. The shaming tactics, the ideas around blackness. Now men are saying, look, what are the practical benefits of my sacrifice? And when you start to really look at it, it comes down to very little. I mean, even marriage itself, it's coming down to occasional sex and a lot of responsibility around things you didn't have anything to do with creating. So until these different communities or demographics start to really look at the question of what it would take to entice black men to participate, it's going to continue to fall apart.
And
And it is what it is.
that's where they've been crippled by liberalism and feminism
Yes,
because they still live with this enormous sense of entitlement that they can get something for nothing. You know what I mean?
exactly.
And it's a one-way street. Um, you don't have to make any investment. That is, they don't have to make any investment. They don't have to make any sacrifices.
Right.
Um, but they want this sacrificial masculinity.
Yes.
And what has happened and what I saw, especially again going back to the election, is that the male vote in this election was a vote driven solely by self-interest.
Mm.
Um, it was not an altruistic vote. It was not a missionary vote. You know what I mean? That is, we're not trying to, liberals pride themselves in like being saviors and all that kind of stuff, and social justice and all that kind of stuff. And what we saw is men saying, that's not who we are,
Yeah.
and we don't because basically when you think about it, I mean, social justice has mainly been monopolized. The whole language of social justice has
Yes.
been monopolized by women. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They've been the ones who defined it. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, this
And
social justice,
and removed us from the definition.
yeah, yeah. So social justice ain't got nothing to do with men.
Except for our deaths. I mean,
Hmm.
that's the only time, especially black men are part of social justice is at our death. But after that, and we saw this codified with BLM, we
Yeah,
were removed from the dynamic.
completely removed, completely removed, and so this is a this is a natural um, response to it. You know what I mean? And, and it's like, yeah, what Trump is doing right now, um, yeah, man, he has, and I said it before, I said it, that he's he's turned the whole he's turned the whole country into honorary N words. You know what
Mm,
I'm saying?
mm.
And it's like including white women. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they the ones because he getting rid of them too. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean?
But they,
And
but they, even though I'm not saying it's a simplistic gesture, theoretically they can go home. All they got to
they,
do is
yeah,
wash the blue hair dye out,
yeah,
and take out some of the the nose rings and cover up
uh-huh,
some tattoos and change their rhetoric. But again, white women embrace these ideas, on an ideological level. Black women embrace them on a damn near religious level,
mm-hmm,
and it's multi-generational in that sense, to where
mm-hmm,
even if you find a relationship that's solid, you have to be concerned about her family and friends,
yeah,
to the extent that they will shame her
yeah,
simply for being happy with you. And I
yeah,
hate to put it in such a simplistic frame, but I've literally seen it fall apart just because of that.
yeah. And that's a very, very, real thing. Because the tribalism, and I call it even in my book, it's the tribalism of black women is so strong. You know what I mean? It cancels out everything. You know what I mean? That is, um, one woman can lean towards a man, and lean towards a mutually beneficial situation with a man. But as long as that tribe, as long as she's connected to that tribe, that relationship is always going to be undermined. You understand? Or it's always going to be, um, at the threat of being jeopardized because of these other women, you know,
Yeah.
that are there. You know what I mean? And it's funny because you probably saw this on, it might have been TikTok or whatever, or Facebook. This woman warning men, she was, this lady was saying to men, if you, black men in particular, she says if you hook up with a woman and she takes you home and you discover that she is in a situation where she's surrounded with a bunch of women who have no men in their lives,
Yes.
she says you need to get rid of this woman.
Yes.
You need to sever your ties
Yes.
because that situation by itself is going to destroy your relationship. You know what I
Well,
mean?
and I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna get off and
Yeah,
not and
yeah,
stop hogging the platform. But I
yeah,
will say, to bring it back to the film,
yeah.
even the film deals with this on one level or another,
Mhm,
because there's a point where he goes on a date with a Caucasian girl,
mhm,
and it
mhm,
ends horribly.
mhm,
But I think you remember there's also a point where he's sitting in his parked car, and
mhm.
there are two black women next to
Oh
his car
yes,
looking at him.
yes, yes.
Now, I wouldn't blame any woman for not dating him
Yeah,
if you at least had a conversation with him
no,
first. These two women never talked to him. He didn't say a
no.
thing. He was sitting in his car by himself, and
Mhm,
these two women were laughing at him.
mhm,
Now, this
mhm.
is this is a man raised by his grandfather,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
everything from his fashion to the car he's driving is heavily influenced by his grandfather. But
Mhm, mhm,
no opportunity for dialogue, nothing. Their response to him was to laugh. So when I talk about
mhm,
this culture that black women have created amongst themselves in regard to how they perceive black men, the film even gives you a moment. If you ask the question why he's on a date with a
mhm,
Caucasian girl, they kind of
mhm.
answer it for you,
Yeah,
because he's not seen as fit for their interests. And a
and when
lot
he
of brothers deal with that reality.
and when he pulls up in the car, he's playing rock music. He's listening to
Yeah.
rock music, to particular kind of music. It ain't, he's not listening to rap. He's not listening to R&B, anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he pulls up, and they right there. And one is smoking a cigarette and everything, and they just they smirk, they laugh. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
And that is a very real thing. Okay.
Yes.
That is a very, very real thing. You know what I mean? And they recognize um, that he doesn't fit, whatever categories um, that they're, accustomed to or whatever. You know what I mean? And yeah, yes. So it's a and it's again, yes, it is cross generational, and I'm just gonna say this, man, and I know you got to go. Is that black women are gonna have to hold this L, bro?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're gonna have to hold this L, and there's not gonna be any intervention. Um, the liberals, and what's so telling about this moment right now, these liberals have showed their weakness. I just
Mm.
give an example in terms of, like, in our area in higher education. Um, when you see the way in which these universities and colleges now are capitulating to the Trump administration, you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
you're talking about presidents, you're talking about deans, you're talking about all sorts of administrators. Um, that 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 says a whole lot about the weakness of the liberal infrastructure that they have depended on all these decades. You understand?
Brother, brother, you are so dead on point. I'm gonna tell you, my system, the California State University system,
Hmm.
they are now toying with the idea of allowing students, accepting students simply on the basis of having a good GPA in high school.
Hmm.
You don't have to write letters anymore. They're not looking for tests, the SAT. They're not looking at if you have good grades in high school. That's where it's gotten to in
Hmm.
terms of bringing people in. And there are a lot of, threats on the table about which programs and departments might even be eliminated. So you're dead on, man. The whole system is being shook, especially those on the left.
Hmm. 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 Yeah, man, and yeah, and their support system um, is crumbling before their eyes. And they're not trying to do anything um, to assert any type of quote unquote resistance or anything like that. You know what I mean? When you have a situation where you have white people, I'm looking at whites hiding behind a congresswoman like Jasmine Crockett. They're hiding behind her. Um, they're not putting themselves out there. You notice. So the the most, I'm gonna say, the most vociferous critics of Trump are black women. But when you see someone like that out there, but you don't
Hmm.
see a whole bunch of other white people who are out there,
Right.
um, taking risks and all that kind of stuff. That's telling,
Yeah.
about what's going on. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And yeah, yeah, yeah. So their resistance is very, very um, thin, um, and not nothing, not anything that one could um, depend on, going forward. You know what I mean? So that's where we are, man. But listen, man, I appreciate you, man, coming up and chiming in. I know
Man,
you were cooking your gumbo, brother, man. Man, got me hungry now. Doing
I
the
got it.
gumbo,
My jambalaya is definitely ready, brother. I'm gonna put it
making the
that way.
jambalaya. Yes, sir.
But no, I
Man,
appreciate it, man, and it's always a pleasure, brother.
always, you're always welcome, brother. And thank you for that, man. And we will hook up real soon, brother.
All right, man.
All
Peace.
right, man. Talk to you. And we very thankful for Dr. Johnson for coming up. We got 100 people up in here, man. I've been going for 2 hours strong. We were talking about magazine dreams, and let me just say it again for those of you guys who are just coming in. You can come back. You can go back and listen to this on the replay and what have you. Um, this stream was not intended to be a review, a scene by scene, chapter by chapter, verse by verse dissection of Magazine Dreams, but it was intended to talk about some things that are going on in that film that have something to do with where we are right now. And I will say this again, it's not an easy film to watch. I recommend that you brothers watch it anyway before it leaves the theaters. Um, it goes without saying that Jonathan Majors is a major thespian actor, and I hope that this is just the beginning of his rebirth and reintroduction to the mainstream after all the stuff that he has gone through and everything. Um, so I appreciate all you guys for coming through. As always, on the Sunday Night Live, it's 8:30 p.m. Indigo Flow. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Y'all get the likes up and continue to support everything that we're doing. I'm going to wrap this episode up, and I will see you guys real soon um, with more thoughts, more commentary, more reflection, more knowledge. Uh, with respect to our situation as Black men, and I'm going to sign off. So you guys take care, and I look forward to seeing you real soon. I am BMI 3000 Reloaded, also known as the Mad Professor, and I'm going to sign off on this Sunday night, and I will talk to you guys real soon. So peace to you, brothers. Take care. I'll see you on the next time. I'm out of here.